Last week, on April 5th, River, the first book of A Starless Clan, the new arc of Warriors, was released. Considering this is an entirely new arc, there's not much relevant information I could say without giving away spoilers of some kind, so if you are avoiding those, consider this your preemptive warning and come back when you've finished the book. Now that we're here, I have some thoughts. Overall, I enjoyed all three of our protagonists, and I'm excited for most of the story beats that seem to be on the way. That being said, I definitely took issue with parts of the story too, and a couple aspects that worry me as things that could turn out badly if they continue through the arc. I think the best way to discuss all of it in this case would be to go one protagonist at a time, since, for this book at least, they each had their own, separated stories. I'll begin with Frostpaw, our new Medicine Cat protagonist and our very first Riverclan protagonist. Plot-wise, just about every wish I had for her story came true. Misty Star and Reed Whisker both died, one quickly after the other, and Frostpaw's first attempt at picking a new leader, her mother, went badly when Curlfeather was killed by dogs on their way to the Moonpool. As Riverclan's only connection to StarClan at this point, she has a lot on her shoulders, and it seems from the examples we've had so far, Jayclaw, Reed Whisker, and then Curlfeather, that she most often or always gets visions of cats only when they're about to die. Riverclan is in a very precarious position for the whole book, and never let anyone help them out of it. This plus the possibility of a conspiracy, given Curlfeather's warning not to trust anyone, and the question of just how Reed Whisker ended up dead, makes for a rather intriguing premise for the arc. I am curious as to how they'll continue it over time, especially since the next book is called Sky, named for one of the two clans that doesn't even share a border with Riverclan, and doesn't have a protagonist point of view. But Riverclan's side of the story isn't perfect. You might notice that I didn't have much to say about personalities or Frostpaw's choices in the plot section, and that's because they're a lacking part of Riverclan's tale. Frostpaw definitely demonstrates the most camera behavior of any of the three protagonists, and the problems in her life are due mostly to events happening around her rather than any choices she makes herself. She doesn't actually make any mistakes, passing on StarClan's words and visions exactly as she was given them, and, thanks to her rather desperate desire to not be in charge, never makes a grab for power either. The choice of Curlfeather for leader raised some eyebrows for a minute, but doubt in her died down quickly, even before Curlfeather's death. It's entirely possible that the clan will lose trust in her due to the nature of her powers, but not due to anything she herself has done, and that ends up making her personality something of an irrelevant note in her own story, which isn't great, and reminds me of another very recent protagonist situation, Shadowsight's. The similarities don't stop there, as both Shadowsight and Frostpaw are relatively nice, dutiful cats who do their best to help their clans in the medicine cat roles they were given due to their high levels of unique visions, and both don't ultimately want any power for themselves, shying away from it despite being thrust into the spotlight thanks to what they see. At least Frostpaw seems to have a friend in Whistlepaw, the new Wingclan medicine cat apprentice to Kestrelflight, but they don't get much time to bond or even see each other in the 2 chapters where they interact, so only time will tell just how well these two will get along. Generally speaking, I worry that Frostpaw won't get much agency in this arc, and won't be forced to grow because of it, but I'm at least very interested in where the plot of her clan will go. Up next is Sunbeam, who is currently my favorite of the 3 protagonists. She has distinct values, choices, and relationships from the get-go, and her story is significantly more driven by those relationships than by any overarching plot. Her main struggles for the first 2/3 of the book have to do with her very bad and reckless friends, Lightleap and Blazefire, the latter of whom was to be her mate until he broke it off halfway through the book. I'll speak on each of them individually to start, because knowing them is key to understanding Sunbeam. Lightleap is reckless, in an emotional way. She was upset that she didn't get to go into the dark forest and become a light in the mist in the end like her brother did. And because of that, she has since been pushing herself constantly, actively seeking out danger to prove herself to be brave, strong, and worthy of the clan. This recklessness hurts not only herself, but those around her, and she in fact gets both Sunbeam and Blazefire heavily injured in the space of this one book. She gets angry with Sunbeam for letting Shadowsight, and by extension Tigerstar, know what hurt her, and never really gets over that grudge, breaking off their friendship and pointedly avoiding or berating her for the rest of the book. Blazefire, meanwhile, seems reckless in a less active way. He is a light-hearted, fun-loving Tom who considers Lightleap's adventures to be overall a more attractive option than the somewhat stuck-up, careful attitude he perceives in Sunbeam. Even when he has been hurt and confined to the medicine den, he considers it a better option to be hurt and enjoy life than to be careful and safe. Not a choice I can empathize with, but fine. This difference in opinion leads to him breaking off the cat engagement he had with Sunbeam, and he spends a great deal more time with Lightleap, though not in a romantic sense from what we can tell. With both friends breaking off their relationships with her, Sunbeam was accidentally instilled with the idea that being a law-abiding, careful cat would leave you sad and alone. So she started reevaluating her choices, trying to take more risks that did get her into trouble, and stopping herself from reporting every wrongdoing to someone. But she doesn't go fully into recklessness either, because she also has Berryheart, her mother, and the leader of the We Hate Change, Clans Should Stay Separate and the Code Should Stay the Same club. Berryheart gets especially angry when her son, Spireclaw, takes advantage of the new rule to get together with Fringewhisker, who joins ShadowClan much to her chagrin. It seems like, with these two competing forces on either side, Sunbeam will end up at the heart of the Backlash Against Change conflict in the arc, which I will be excited to see play out since it's so ingrained in who Sunbeam is as a cat. We will get to learn more about her as we learn about the clans. Flamepaw will definitely not be like that. He doesn't have much reverence for older cats, or Thunderclan especially, and tends to be more brash, impulsive, emotional, and immature. This makes it particularly odd that the only cat he could be said to have truly bonded with over the course of the book, over a total of 2 short scenes, is Sunbeam. Sunbeam is used to being friends with reckless cats, so I suppose it makes sense, but it feels like, after Lightleap and Blazefire each broke away so harshly, she would seek out someone more like herself than her friends that hurt her. I am also worried, given the shallow nature of Warriors romances, that their couple of benign interactions were a precursor to another protagonist-ex-protagonist romance, which I am not excited for. I do not want that. Putting Sunbeam aside, though, Flamepaw's conflict is one I really like for the first section. He failed his apprentice assessment twice in a row because of his impulsiveness and need to show off rather than just getting the job done. But a lot of his conflict, especially at the very end, hinges on the clan, his mother Sparkpelt, and the leaders requiring that he live up to the amazing legacy his family has, leading all the way back to Firestar. For a multitude of reasons people discussed when even the summaries of this book came out, this idea makes no sense. Flamepaw has no more connection to Firestar than the rest of his generation, and Sparkpelt and Alderheart, the generation immediately before, didn't have his legacy hanging over them at all. Bramblestar at the end decides to name him Flameheart in honor of Firestar's warrior name, and when Flamepaw refuses since he isn't like and doesn't want to be known as just a Firestar descendant, Bramblestar insists that they see Firestar in him and names him Nightheart instead. That is an improvement from Flameheart, I suppose, but I don't understand how everyone sees any of Firestar's personality or appearance in Nightheart, who, by the way, is a completely, very, very black cat with no ginger at all, people of the art world. He says so multiple times, as it is one reason that the insistence on legacy is ridiculous. Which it is, but to make it this absurd, they had to pull the rest of Thunderclan out of character and make them obsessed with legacy all of a sudden, even when they never gave a single reason for Nightheart in particular to be so tied with Firestar. Finchlight has ginger in her at least, and seems to have more Sparkpelt and Firestar-like qualities than Nightheart, so why didn't Bramblestar try to give her the heart suffix? It just gets frustrating to have the plot drive characters' personalities rather than their personalities driving the plot. The last thing I'd like to cover are the changes made to the code, as we've seen them. The new ordering of the code that was posted on the Warriors website probably won't get into a book soon, if ever, as the main series has never written down the code in full in any book. But the 2 changes we actually know of are the legalization and formalization of both cross-clan relationships and the dismantling of leaders. From now on, if a cat wants to leave their clan to become mates with another cat, they must declare their intention at a gathering and then pass some physical test chosen by the clan they want to get into. I have some issues with this. I don't know that a test of physical skill is the best way of proving commitment to a clan. Maybe a ceremony, a vow, or a trial period would be better for that. But if someone who didn't excel physically wanted to join another clan, they probably wouldn't be able to. As far as replacing bad leaders is concerned, anyone but the deputy can propose to remove a leader if they feel the leader isn't serving the clan's best interests. And then at least 3/4 of the clan, including all of the clan's current medicine cats, must agree. They then need to get the other clan's leaders to agree, and finally StarClan, who will strip them of their remaining lives and make the deputy the new leader. Slight problem with this. The problem they are trying to solve with this change is the inability to get rid of cats like Ashfur when they become leaders. But there was never a point in time where 3/4 of Thunderclan agreed that Imposter Star was bad, let alone the other clan leaders, and StarClan was completely inaccessible. The rule they are proposing wouldn't actually solve anything. Everyone complaining in Universe says that these changes make the processes too easy, but they definitely don't. In the case of clan switches, it's testing for an entirely irrelevant trait, and in the case of leadership, it's too difficult to be viable. Believe it or not, I did actually like this book, but I think it leans a little too far into the outline of Lost Stars in its characters, stakes, and conflicts. And while I do like all of the protagonists, I have doubts about how their stories will be handled going forward. Still, it's exciting to start a new arc like this, especially with all that's going on in Riverclan and with Sunbeam's story, and I'm still looking forward to seeing the arc play out. Thank you for watching, and always remember to let others into your life when you have problems you can't solve on your own.